Here's the reassignments recording for today. So, alright, so we're at the halfway point in the middle of the Java programming course. And to refresh your memory on the syllabus real quick here, we have a few things to deal with. We have a final exam. That one you can't avoid. That one's going to be in class. It's going to be on July 2nd, actually, coming up. And today's what? Ooh, we have less than a month left of this course. We have a midterm exam I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. We have a CSLO essay I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. I've already talked about the homework assignments. All of it gets uploaded into the EMS or LMS. Is it called LMS now? LMS. And it's all ready for you, actually. You should be able to upload anything you want right now in there. The homework assignments are only worth 5 points each, and there's 25% of your grade. If you take a look in comparison, here's 50% right here in midterms. That's why I say merit's going over the midterm a little bit here in the CSLO. Alright, midterm's a take-home midterm. It is not an in-class midterm. All of this stuff can be downloaded from the EMS or from bhacker.com. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Actually, you know what? Let me open it up in text view. I have multiple text editors on here. Text Wrangler is what I want here, actually. Oh, that's not good. Alright, let's just open it up. And here, let me, oh, here we go, 100. Let's try 200%. Ooh, that looks better. Alright, so this is the midterm exam that I'm going to attempt to go over here. The midterm exam has a series of questions on it. You must answer all of the questions. It is a take-home exam, but do not cut and paste off of the internet. I do not award credit for stuff that is done by other students either. So please do your own work on the midterm exam. If any answers are the same, nobody will get any credit for it, which means you'll get a big old 0, and then you'll have to send me a message and how come I got a 0 on this? Because it was plagiarized. Okay. I don't care if you were the original and you just gave it to all your friends. Or if you were one of the plagiarizers. Okay, well. Alright, so question number 1 is worth 15 points. You're going to answer the following questions using words. Words. No source code examples. Just words. Which is harder sometimes than using source code examples, I believe. So. A sentence or two is sufficient. That's why I know when you've cut and pasted off of the internet. When I get paragraphs and paragraphs of answers. Like, who in the world would write all that when you only have to write 1 or 2 sentences? As an example, describe the 4 characteristics of object-oriented design. Now, you can probably spend at least 2 pages on this question, but you don't have to. I put in here a pie to tell you that I'm talking about abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. So all you have to do is describe abstraction. Abstraction in a language is being able to represent real-world concepts in a programming syntax. Ooh, that's really good, actually. Polymorphism is the ability of an object to adapt to different input or different environment situations when it needs to. Or the ability of a method to take on different types of parameters or to work with different situations to adapt. Actually, polymorphism, the word adaptation is part of it. I'm not going to answer all these questions, I'm only doing the first one. Inheritance, the ability to, okay, so what I'm doing is I'm answering it, for my answers right now, I'm thinking about objects. You don't have to actually think about objects. You could have a different focus on your answers. There's no right or wrong way of doing it as long as you're describing the 4 main characteristics in some perspective, using 1 or 2 sentences or so. Or here I'm probably going to end up with about 5 or 6 sentences because I've got 1 or 2 for each one of them. So inheritance, the ability to take one object and turn it into another, or to build a hierarchy and reusable components, reusable objects. Encapsulation, hiding the details. It's also called information hiding, the ability to hide those details. So we encapsulate the concept inside of an object, call it a student. And we can work with students. We don't have to worry about, well, what's inside of a student? Stuff like that. So go through and answer the questions. You can number the questions, or it's actually just section 1. Each question is 15 questions. It's only worth 1 point each. And on the bottom here, if it says, do we have a deconstructor in Java? Why or why not? Do we have a deconstructor in Java? No. So you can say no. Why? Well, because we don't need one. The JVM does automatic garbage collection for us. That's all I'm looking for, seriously. Don't be sarcastic, but you know, that's all I'm looking for. No, you idiot. You asked me that question already. Some of the questions are sort of similar, actually, so don't answer that way. Don't insult me. All right, so section number 2, answer the following questions with Java source code. So here you don't use words, you use Java source code. If this seems long, it is long. That's why I'm showing it to you, so it gives you a heads up. Hey, you might start on this before the last week of class. It's a take-home, so you can spend as long as you want on it. But it's worth 25 points. It's worth a lot of points, so you want to do well on it. So you're answering this with source code examples, which means this last one's kind of show with Java source code how to create a subclass and overload a constructor of a subclass. You may use anything that you want that you have written. You would have done this in one of the assignments, actually. In fact, all of this stuff you would have done in one of your assignments, probably. You could have done in one of your assignments. So you may cut and paste and use your own source code that you have written for your assignments. Because this one you've done, actually, or you would have done. Whether you've created an interface, probably not. Abstract class, probably not. But you would have done this one too, inherited one class from another. Sometimes it may also be easier just to type something in there. Student inherits from person. It does not have to be compilable syntax. You do not have to write an entire program. You're just writing the source code that would accomplish this task. I'm not going to compile it or run it. It doesn't have to be a working program. I have had some students in the past give me the midterm and it was like 50 pages. You know, it was like, because they included a program that does this, a program that does that. And all I really want you to do is download this Word file, put some, you know, go like this, put some spaces in here. Oops, okay, whatever. Put some spaces in here and start typing your answer. Section number 3, miscellaneous Java concepts. What will the output of the following Java program do? Explain why. You can cut and paste, put it in the compiler, run it, and see what happens. It is compilable code, although it is, this particular case is written in Word, so you might have some special syntax you might have to, and unfortunately, you have to convert it to text in order to cut and paste it, really. It's in a Word file. So, but you're probably going to want to do it. It's a really small program, it's no problem. But and then you'll go, wow, why is it doing that? Or what happens with that program? And then you can assume that the weather class is stored in a file called weather. Problem number 2 class is stored in a problem number 2 Java file, which can, this compiles and runs. So you can actually cut and paste this and put it in there too. You get a working program out of that if you want. And then going to answer some questions. You know, what's the output of this? What's the output of that? What's the output of this? You know. So feel free to cut and paste and put it into a text file if you want. Change, you know, change the code so it runs. And it's not cheating. It's actually an exercise because it'll actually be kind of interesting to see what things do, actually. And then last but not least, the last question on the exam here kind of confuses a lot of people. So you're going to identify the classes in the following description of a refrigerator. List at least one responsibility for each class. You do not need to create the classes in Java. There's no source code writing here. Just describe in words or any way that you want what the sets of classes you are going to create in the example. From this example description, what would you create? If you don't know UML, don't learn UML for this. If you want to sample with UML, make some UML. If your diagram is sort of similar to UML but it really isn't UML, don't worry about it. Any way that you want. You're not being graded on your diagramming or your creativity or your beautiful pictures. You don't have to draw pictures. You can do it in words if you want. It's not a bad idea though if you're interested in learning UML or kind of syntax, you know, to put a little diagram together if you want. Because you could probably create a class diagram out of this. It'd probably look pretty good, but you don't have to. So refrigerators, I'm not going to get into it, but it has a motor, temperature sensor, a light and a door, you know, all of these little things. So, you know, hint, hint. If you were going to write a program that simulated this, how would you break the objects out, essentially? And think of this more like an object diagram that you're putting together. Questions about the midterm. It is take home, but it is do your own work. The other item of interest that you're going to be wanting to do is what's called the CSLO essay. The CSLO essay was the old-fashioned course learning student objective thingy-bob that we all had to do. I sort of left this in because it's a writing assignment. It's not a programming assignment. However, you can feel free to be creative. What do you need to do? So you select one of the following essay topics. Because this is a grad level course, you're supposed to be learning how to write. And to write with technical terms and to write, you know, about languages and stuff. It's actually not a bad idea. 3 to 5 pages double spaced, which is what? Cut it in half. It's 3 is what? 1.5 to, I don't know, 5 to 1.5 to 2.5 pages or so of text. On one of the topics below, you must include at least 3 reference citations, which means I want you to do some research. Go out on the internet. It means don't find an article on the internet, cut and paste it, and put it in the body of the paper and call it your essay. That you're not going to get any credit for either. I've had people do that. You know, just like cut and paste it. They gave me 20 pages, and here's the link. You click on the link, and you go, oh, it's from Wikipedia. It's the exact article. Wow. Not the purpose. I'm not going to put it through turnitin.com, but imagine, you know, I probably should, but I'm not going to do it. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Your paper must reflect your own writing and cannot contain portions of cut and pasted stuff off the internet. All papers processed through. Here's your opportunity to practice writing professional and academic quality papers in English. English is the first language, or the only language you can select here. Topic selections. Select one for 3 to 5 pages, double spaced. Provide an overview of the concepts of object-oriented modeling. Okay. Discuss the concepts related to object orientation and provide some examples to demonstrate your points. What does that mean? Okay, this is the reason why I'm bringing this up. It's a writing assignment for a programming course. You may put in code snippets. So you can say, if you're describing, if you're providing an overview of the concept of object-oriented modeling, you could put in, if you wanted to, describing the concepts related and providing some examples to demonstrate your points. I'm not looking for you to write a program and stick it in here. What you want to do is primarily like 80-90% of your paper should be in writing, should be words. But you're allowed to use code snippets. So if you want to say, here's how you create a class. Class, my class is equal to, and here's how you extend a class, use the keyword extends. Here's how you implement an interface, and an interface is this, and blah, 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 blah. You know, 1 or 2 lines, 5 lines or so, little examples that you can mix in. It'll be easier for you to actually take up 3 to 5 pages, first of all, but it's harder because then you're actually having to demonstrate that you actually know what you're talking about. So, yet it's easier because then you have something to talk about. So there's some pros and cons to it, but don't make the entire paper source code. That's what I'm saying. And a word of caution about the topics: you may elaborate on the different topics and interpret them in any way that you want. As an example, discuss the use of Java as a web-based application tool and as a cross-platform programming language. Okay. I'm probably talking about applets, and you're going to wonder, well, we didn't talk about applets in this course. We didn't have to actually talk about the concept in this course. If you know, if you want to elaborate on the web-based stuff that we didn't cover in terms of because it's no sense in applets. But there's other things that you could do. Make sure you're not talking about JavaScript, however, though. JavaScript's a different language than Java. So talk about Java in terms of any technology that we didn't cover. As an example down here, client-server computing, the EE Enterprise Edition. We didn't talk about that. So you can talk about that in this assignment if you want. Well, you'll have to go out and do your own research on it. Or perhaps you've been working with it and you're familiar with it already. You know, that might also be an option. So we don't necessarily would have had to cover it in the class, as long as it's Java related. Comparing Java as an object-oriented language with another object-oriented language, and and how do the objects differ. It might be interesting to see how it differs with C++ or something, which, you know, a lot of people pick this one actually, because it seems to be pretty easy. But don't recycle stuff you see on the internet, however, because a lot of teachers use that topic, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet from papers that students have written, and I can spot those immediately. So, demonstrate how to solve a given application problem by going through the basic steps of program design within the context of the object-oriented paradigm. You do not need to create the Java source code, but provide the logic for the program design and explain why it's a good design and how the object orientation concepts are applied. This is like the last question of the midterm. You can create a diagram if you want. It takes up a little space, 3 to 5 pages. So the 3 to 5 pages includes the text plus the diagrams plus the source code snippets plus anything you're putting in there, as long as 80% of the paper is writing. It cannot be all of the paper is this big diagram and you have one sentence written on the bottom. Here's a picture of my family vacation. It was written in Java. Okay, I thought about Java on the beach. Here's the beach. It compares with C++, sort of, kind of. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. Questions about the CSLO-SA. Those are the 2 big ticket items because that's 50% of your grade. 50% on the midterm and 50% on the CSLO. Those you could do now, actually. There's no reason why you can't start on those things now. The assignments are where you're going to get most of your learning from, actually. But these are where most of the grade is coming from, which is kind of ironic. But the course is not designed, well, the course is particularly designed for people who want to learn Java for the Android environment. And so what you're learning in the course is basic Java programming skills. And if you're not a programmer, you don't actually have to worry about it because you're not going to be hindered because you can't write those 5 programs because it's only 25% of your grade. But if you can understand the concepts, you're in the right direction. And if you can understand the concepts, then you can do the midterm and you can do the CSLO-SA, no problem. And then if that's the case, you'll probably do just fine on the final. The final exam will be multiple choice format. So if you can do the CSLO-SA, you can do the midterm, you'll pass the final, no problem. Because there won't be any source code writing on the final. So, questions? Now I'm officially running a little bit late. Nope. Okay, we're done with the Java course. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start in with Android.